talking in his room with several of his disciples. Ravindra Swarup made the introductions. Prabhupada. So, you are teaching Hinduism? Dr. Patel. Yes, Prabhupada. What is that Hinduism? Dr. Patel. I don't know. You tell me what Hinduism is. Prabhupada. You don't know? You are teaching Hinduism, but you don't know what it is? This is our Dr. Swarup Damodar. He is also a PhD. Let us get his opinion on this. Turning to Swarup Damodar. What do you think of that? He is teaching, but he does not know. Swarup Damodar. Cheetah, Srila Prabhupada. That is called a cheetah. Prabhupada. So you've heard this judgment that you are a cheetah. Dr. Patel became angry and raised his voice to Srila Prabhupada. The professor and Srila Prabhupada were immediately into a battle. Dr. Patel. You teach me. If I don't know what is religion, then you teach me. Prabhupada. A spiritual master is not your servant. First you become shaven-headed like my students, then I will teach you. You have to offer your obeisances and surrender to the spiritual master. Then he will reveal the truth. Dr. Patel replied that he did offer his obeisances to Prabhupada when he first entered the room. Prabhupada. Then my first instruction to you is stop this cheating. By now, Srila Prabhupada and Dr. Patel were speaking with raised voices. Most of the devotees were shocked, speechless. Some of them, like Brahmananda Swami, felt compelled to somehow end the meeting. Prabhupada. You ask me what is religion. My reply is Sarva Dharma Paritraja. Krishna says religion means Saranam Raja, fully surrender. Dr. Patel. What do you mean by surrender? Prabhupada. You don't know the meaning of surrender? Give me a dictionary, let us see. Dr. Patel yelling. No, I want the Sanskrit etymological meaning of surrender. Prabhupada. You don't want a spiritual master. You want a Sanskrit teacher. We cannot waste our time anymore. Brahmananda Swami saw that as his cue. He leaned over to Dr. Patel and asked him to leave before you get offensive. Dr. Patel and Brahmananda Swami then rose and left the room together. Srila Prabhupada remained shaking with anger. The senior devotees looked over at Ravindra Swarup reproachfully. How could he bring such a man to see Prabhupada? Ravindra Swarup was appalled and frightened. Never before had anyone seen Prabhupada explode with such anger. After staying up all night, Ravindra Swarup approached Prabhupada the next morning with a prepared apology. Srila Prabhupada, he began, I am really sorry that I brought that professor to see you last night. I had no idea he was such a rascal. Srila Prabhupada looked up in surprise. Oh, he said, that is all? That is all right. He paused and then added with quiet satisfaction. At least he was chastised. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 6, which is entitled The Activities of Lord Rishabhdev. So I'll just run through the introductory. This chapter tells how Lord Rishabhdev left his body. He was not attached to his body, even when it was being burned up in a forest fire. When the seed of fruit activity is burned by the fire of knowledge, the spiritual properties and mystic powers are automatically manifest. Yet Bhakti Yoga is not affected by these mystic powers. An ordinary yogi is captivated by mystic powers and his progress checked. Therefore, a perfect yogi does not welcome them, because the mind is restless and undependable. It must remain always under control. Even the mind of the advanced yogi, Subari, created such a disturbance that he lost his yogic mystic powers. Due to a restless mind, even a very advanced yogi can fall down. The mind is so restless that it induces even a perfect yogi to be controlled by the senses. Therefore, Lord Rishabhdev, for the instruction of all yogis, showed the process of quitting the body. While traveling in South India through the provinces of Karnataka, Kanka, Venka, and Kutaka, Lord Rishabdev arrived in the neighborhood of Kutakachala. Suddenly there was a forest fire that burned the forest and Lord Rishabdev's body to ashes. The pastimes of Lord Rishabdev as a liberated soul were known by the king of Kanka, Venka, and Kutaka. This king's name was Arhat. He later became captivated by the illusory energy, and in this condition, he set forth the basic principles of Jainism. Lord Rishabdev set forth the principles of religion that can free one from material bondage, and he put an end to all kinds of atheistic activities. On this earth, the place known as Bharatvarsh was a very pious land, because the Supreme Lord appeared there when he wanted to incarnate. Lord Rishabdev neglected all the mystic powers for which the so-called yogis hanker. Because of the beauty of devotional service, devotees are not at all interested in so-called mystic power. The master of all yogic power, Lord Krishna, can exhibit all powers on behalf of his devotee. Devotional service is more valuable than mystic powers. Devotees who are sometimes misled aspire for liberation in mystic powers. The Supreme Lord gives these devotees whatever they desire, but they cannot attain the most important function of devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is guaranteed for those who do not desire liberation and mystic power. So now we're on text 1. So I'll just run through the Sanskrit for this one. This is Rajo Vacha Nanunam Bhagavata Atmaram Manam Yoga Samirita Jnanava Bhajita Kama Vijanam Aishvaryani Puna Kleshadani Bhavitam Ahanti Yadricha Chopagayanti. Responsibly, please. Raja Uvacha. King Parikshit inquired. Na, not. Nunam, indeed. Bhagava, O most powerful Shukadev Goswami. Atmarayamanam, of pure devotees simply engaged in devotional service. Yoga Samirita, achieved by practice of yoga. Jnana, by knowledge. Avabhajita, burned. Karma Bijanam, of those whose seeds are fruitive activities. Aishvaryani, the mystic powers. Puna, again. Kleshadani, sources of distress. Bhavitam, to become. Ahanti, are able. Yadrichaya, automatically. Upagatani, achieved. Translation. King Parikshit asked Shukadev Goswami, my dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabdev neglect them? Responsibly, please. King Parikshit asked Shukadev Goswami, my dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabdev neglect them? Prabhupada ki jai. A pure devotee is constantly engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained, though it may appear to be the result of mystic power, mystic yogic power. Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. A little quantity of gold captivates foolish people, and thus the yogi gets many followers who are willing to accept such a tiny person as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a yogi may also advertise himself as Bhagavan. However, a devotee does not have to exhibit such magical powers. Without practicing the mystic yogic process, he achieves even greater opulences all over the world. Under the circumstances, Lord Rishabdev refused to manifest mystic yogic perfections. And Maharaj Parikshit asked why he did not accept them, since for a devotee they are not at all disturbing. A devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material opulence. His concern is how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If by the grace of the Supreme Lord a devotee achieves extraordinary opulence, he utilizes the opportunity for the Lord's service. He is not disturbed by the opulence. Om Agyanatamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshunanmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapatruvishya Kripa Sindhivishya Adinam Bhadevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So King Krishna asked Shukadeva Goswami, my dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabdev neglect them? So Prabhupada is saying in the purport that the pure devotee, he only wants what is necessary for discharging devotional service, and although sometimes it may appear to be the result of mystic power. So Srila Prabhupada said that my mystic power is that I've turned these devotees into dancing elephants, dancing white elephants. So that was Prabhupada's mystic power, which is quite a feat, actually. Of all the things you can do, you could produce a little bit of gold, or you could make yourself small, or you could walk on water. But to turn a person into a devotee of Krishna, and to free him once and for all from the samsara of birth and death, is the greatest mystical yoga. It's what Shyamasundar refers to as Prabhupada magic in his biography of his encounters with Srila Prabhupada. He said there was always some Krishna magic about to take place when Srila Prabhupada would ask them to do something which seemed impossible, and they just decided, okay, let's try and do it, and then there would be some Krishna magic. So the devotee is prepared to surrender, just like our Dr. Patel there that was arguing with Srila Prabhupada. He didn't know what surrender was. If you don't know what it is you're looking for, then you've got very little chance of finding it. So you should have a clear idea of what it is, what is surrender, and how to go about doing it. It may not be that we can achieve full surrender overnight, but over a period of time. And certainly there's opportunities all the time to surrender to this situation or that situation. So small surrenders along the way, and then the ultimate surrender to give everything up and go back to Krishna. And then that allows Krishna to come in and work his magic, his mystical power. Krishna is Yogeshvara. So any mystical powers that anyone has are only being given to him by Krishna in the first place. And Krishna consciousness is also helping us to clarify our vision of what's going on around us, to be able to appreciate more that there is so much display of Krishna's mystical power going on already in the world. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that for the atheist, he cannot see God anywhere. And for the theist, he can see God everywhere. So he sees the mystical powers of God working all the time around him. So a little quantity of gold captivates foolish people. So Srila Prabhupada, he lumped not only bogus gurus, but bogus followers of gurus in the same category, that they're all rascals. Because if you're such a rascal that you're prepared to accept somebody as God just because he can do the most puny thing, tiniest trivial thing, and then the person may be able to sing nicely, that's a kind of mystical opulence, or he can kick a ball. Can you imagine before football was invented, and they said, we're going to glorify this person. Why is that? Why are we glorifying? Watch this. And then he kicks the ball, and it goes into a net, 30 yards away. And so therefore he is God. So such a tiny display of mystical opulence. And so for people to accept, maybe the person is a pop singer, and then they accept him as God. I remember when I was a kid, actually, in Skelmersdale, I saw sprayed on the wall, David Bowie as God. And at that time, I didn't believe in God. But I remember thinking, well, I don't believe in God myself, but if there is one, I don't think it would be David Bowie. So if people are willing to accept so easily and worship somebody so easily as God, then they're also rascals. Anyway, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, he's given us knowledge, and the knowledge is enlightening us, and we can share that knowledge. The more we share the knowledge, then the more we become enlightened. Like I had to do this talk for Ramananda the other day, and he asked me to use the example of the if you get the books, that's really nice, but if you share the books, then the synergy of that is that instead of 1 and 1 equaling 2, 1 plus 1 equals 11. So you get much more out of your endeavor by sharing Krishna consciousness with others than just by practicing it on your own. So we're very fortunate that we have the opportunity all the time to experience this mystical power of Krishna, and to surrender to Krishna and see Krishna's hand in everything that's going on. Our whole life is like a dialogue between us and Krishna, actually. Everything that's taking place is Krishna speaking to us. He's sending this person for us to learn something from. Just like this boy was told by his archangel, he was about to take birth, and the angel said, you have all divine qualities. Is there any quality that you'd like? And he said, well, the one quality I'd really like is forgiveness. And the angel said, okay, I will take birth as your enemy. And the boy says, you're my enemy? And the angel said, yeah, so that I can teach you forgiveness. So Krishna's teaching us through so many different situations. And if we can tune in to the dialogue, what's the message here? What am I supposed to learn? What's the next step forward toward Krishna? So Lord Rishabdev wasn't interested in mystical power. So Maharaj Krishna is asking, well, if it's a good thing, then, and it's not going to cause distress, then why neglect it? So Lord Rishabdev is showing that what is favorable to Krishna consciousness is accepted, and whatever is unfavorable is rejected, whatever it may be. And that is the art of Yukta Vairagya. Rupa Goswami teaches Yukta Vairagya is the art of using everything in Krishna's service, learning the art of how to use it. And if you can't use it in Krishna's service, then there's no need for it. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that in the purport that whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained, though it may appear to be the result of mystic yoga power. Anybody think of an example of that? Something that is necessary for the discharge of devotional service, and it's automatically attained, although it appears to be the result of mystic yogic power. Something that's necessary for the discharge of devotional service.
Someone has the potency to distribute a lot of books and engage people.
Yeah, one mystical feat that we see quite often in ISKCON is devotees. In fact, Manadawa Prabhu was speaking to us about this amazing mystical transformation that takes place. There's back to Frankenstein and back to this one and back to that one he was saying. And then suddenly they live in the ashram and suddenly they become empowered and they transform and they become the most eloquent scholars, very, very fluently speaking and presenting the books in such a way that they're irresistible, and they achieve amazing results far beyond what anyone would ever have thought when they first saw this person. So yeah, that's a nice display of how, and that actually is, you could say, well, he must have some mystic power. He's hypnotizing people, and he's getting them to take the books because he has a mystic power. But actually, the real reason is Krishna wants the books to be distributed so much that if you're prepared to be a via medium for that, and you just allow yourself to be malleable in Krishna's hands, then you can find yourself doing the most amazing things, far beyond what your false ego. See, the false ego, it seems to be something that's for us. It's telling us all the time, oh, we're so good at this, and we're so good at that, and we're so good at the next thing. But the downside of the false ego is that the false ego limits us to our idea of what we think we can do. And Krishna's idea of what we can do and our idea of what we can do are generally not the same. And if we allow Krishna to come in, then he can use us in so many ways to do so many amazing things, which will be far beyond our premeditated false ego idea of what we think we can do. And you can see that very clearly if you bump into an old friend and you see the change that's taking place in yourself by how much the old friend is like who you would have been if you had them taken up devotional service in the first place. So it helps you to see that it's like a goldfish. It's like a goldfish that's jumped in the ocean, meeting a goldfish that stayed in the goldfish bowl, and now you're outside the bowl and you're having a conversation with the other goldfish, your old friend, but he's in the goldfish bowl and you're outside the goldfish bowl. So that's the mystical power of Krishna, is that he broadens our horizons. The pandemic right now, everything is shrunk down into very small environments. Everybody is stuck in this situation. They're working from home, and it can be a very small sphere of existence to live in. Whereas for the devotee, we're contemplating Lord Rishabhdev, who lived hundreds of thousands of years ago, and we contemplate the universe, the embodied soul. Srila Prabhupada, I was reading the other day, he was referring to the soul as being encased inside the material body. So all these kinds of wonderful meditations and contemplations we have, and that frees us up from just being in this immediate situation. We can see the bigger picture. And so that's a great source of relief and fulfillment and nourishment. And also for compassion, because then we see how little generally people have. When the sphere gets punctured, when somebody dies, for instance, then it really is difficult to just get on with things, because if you haven't really addressed the death problem in the first place, and then suddenly it happens, it's like, okay, what do we do now? Okay, well, let's just try and enjoy ourselves as usual and try and forget this and get on with other things. So it very much highlights how shallow the existence is. But for us, we have so much knowledge. And it's interesting, knowledge is it's referred to here. Knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and detachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. So it's interesting, isn't it, that knowledge is compared to fire, and the fire burns up sinful reaction, and some of that sinful reaction comes in the form of fruitive desire. The reaction for sinful activity is not as bad, because that's quite easy to get free from. But what is quite bad is the other reaction for sinful activity is the desire for more sinful activity, and that's much more problematic, because it means whatever you've done now, you'll be doing 10 times as much in the future, 100 times as much in the future, 1,000 times as much. So it just exponentially increases. But with with Bhakti Yoga, that knowledge that's attained, it burns everything to ashes completely. So the desires stop, and then the activities stop, and then we become really free from everything. And then for such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. So anything that we need in the discharge of our devotional service will arise. It's automatically attained, Prabhupada's saying. It's automatically attained. We just have to focus on serving Krishna and pleasing Krishna, and everything else will fall into place. Any questions or comments? Anything online? So the question for those that didn't catch it is, why did Lord Rishabdev neglect, which is really the question that Maharaj Parikshit asks. And the answer, my dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. Eshavai Paramo Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Eshavai Paramo Yoga. The supreme yogic process is that by which one, as an expert horseman designed to train a headstrong horse, first allows the horse to have its way and then pulls it back onto the desired path. So the yogi carefully observes the desires and movements of the mind and gradually brings them under full control. So if it's a distraction, I mean, it's interesting because Prabhupada's saying that they'll automatically be attained. So Lord Rishabdev didn't have to worry. I mean, he wasn't thinking, I'm going to make my stool smell like from 80 miles away to smell nice. He wasn't, it just happened automatically. It automatically was attained. Whatever was needed, he could neglect anything. He didn't have to worry about. It says that Prahlad Maharaj, he wasn't even aware of sleeping, eating, and all the other bodily functions. He was so absorbed in his meditation that these other activities were just going on automatically, passing of day and night. So for a devotee, he can neglect because he's fully in the care of Krishna, and he knows that Krishna will provide whatever he wants automatically, whether it's this mystical perfection or that. I mean, the way Srila Prabhupada, some of the things that took place with Srila Prabhupada were very, very mystical, but it just happened in due course. It wasn't that Srila Prabhupada was thinking that morning, I'm going to perform an amazing miracle which will astound everybody. So in that sense, he neglected, in the sense that he didn't extraneously endeavor for any of these things. They were just there waiting. Isn't it Bilvamangala Thakur was saying that he neglects liberation and mystic powers, and liberation waits at his door with folded palms. Just, can I serve you in any way? Is there anything you would like, So when we neglect something, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we're not distracted by it. We just have full faith that Krishna will provide whatever is necessary. And we fall in. We want to find out what is Krishna's plan and try and make our plan the same as Krishna's plan. Because we have our plan of how things should take place. But if we reflect back over the time we have been here in this mortal world, not many of the plans that we made were ones that actually happened. And then in retrospect, we think, I shouldn't have planned that, I should have planned this instead. It's a lot easier to make plans in hindsight. But the lesson we learn from that is that it's very hard to understand what's happening. And we should give up the false ego of thinking that we're in control and just try and comply with the plan which is unfolding. There's a plan which is unfolding. We know that the ultimate end of the plan is Lord Chaitanya's prophecy that this Krishna consciousness will spread, not only on this planet, but throughout the universe, actually. In fact, they asked Srila Prabhupada, where's your Guru Maharaj now? He said he's on the moon preaching. So if they go to, we'll know that they've been to the moon when they come back and say, we've just seen Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Well, they went to the moon. So it's going on everywhere.
It's interesting how he has all these mystic occurrences at his disposal. He's not interested in using them or displaying them. Whereas someone who may not be pure at heart, they can't wait to show someone that they have some mystic power, or even if they don't have mystic power or liberation, then the rascals, they want to try and make it as if they're God or as if they're liberated soul.
Yeah,
The liberated soul doesn't go around advertising himself like that.
yeah, yeah.
In fact, there was also one when a guy who was arguing with his disciples to accept that I'm God, and then they didn't accept, so then he tried to convince them how he was God. And then finally, I think he just gave in and said, yes, we accept you, God, but they didn't accept him in the beginning.
You had to talk them into it.
Yeah, probably said, no, God doesn't have to convince someone.
Well, the mystic powers are a tricky thing, actually, because even though Krishna doesn't want us to become distracted, he knows to some degree that that we want them. Like we may want to sing really nicely, and we may become enamored by it, or we may have a body which is very attractive, and that's a kind of mystical thing. It may be kind of very low key. You're not, setting things on fire or making yourself huge or walking through walls, but you're still developing some ability, and that's referred to by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in the Madhura Kandamani as Taranga Ranjani, is that you start getting facility. People start respecting you. People start thinking you're clever because you know 5 slokas. And people say, oh, this guy's coming, he's really cool. I was watching him rolling poris yesterday, he's amazing. He can do it with his elbows. Shishikonitai Maya Pashashi Ki Jai. And then the Taranga Ranjani is these waves of facility start to lap up and get onto us, and we start thinking, I'm actually pretty cool, I deserve a bit of recognition for this. And so that it is. So once that's there, then all the kinds of things can enter as well. So it's interesting with weeds, because I'm quite good at growing weeds, actually, because the problem is I don't know they are weeds, and they look really good along the way, and I'm thinking, this is actually, I get attached to it, I'm thinking, it's too really well, look at the leaves on this, And then I brought Saranga over, and about over half of the things I was growing, he says, oh, that's a weed. That's a weed. Oh, no. So the problem is the weeds can look really okay, they can seem nice, and then they're starting to grow and they seem healthy, and it's such a shame to pull it out. I mean, okay, it's a weed, but I mean, it's a pretty nice weed, and you got to admit that. And then you wonder what the flower's going to be like on it. You're thinking, okay, well, if it's got a terrible flower on it, I'll pull it out then, So then you're waiting to see how it's going to blossom. So this is the nature of, as we go along on devotional service, when we're chanting or we're in class and we're not so attentive, or whatever it happens to be, if you're not doing it in a very focused way, then it may be some weed that's getting watered, some inattentive, sloppy kind of Krishna consciousness is going on, and that causes weeds to start growing. And then as they become established and they seem quite attractive, then it can become difficult. And this tendency toward facility, whether it's mystical power or recognition, or so that's something we have to be on guard against, armed with yoga, stand and fight. So it is a fight, actually. It's not a Krishna conscious cruise. It's a battle. Prabhupada said, when you take initiation, you declare war on Maya. So it's like we're at war right now, actually. We just don't see any bullets, but it's like being at war right now. There's something going on, something threatening us, and we're having to safeguard and take so many precautions and always be on our guard, One day you just think, I'm just going to nip down, and oh no, I can't just nip down, and then you have to remember. So we're in the material world, and the pandemic is the material energy, actually, which is affecting us, and so many different viruses are coming into us. The virus of mystical power, the virus of pratima, of prestige, the virus of resentfulness, the virus of cruelty. All kinds of little viruses are floating around already in the atmosphere. They're making a big fuss about this one right now. There's plenty of others going around that are a lot more dangerous, and they don't know how to safeguard against those. So yeah, we maybe sometimes have to rethink when it's saying, the Bhagavatam is saying, be free from liberation and from mystical power. And initially we could think, well, that's fine. That's me out. Don't count me in. I'm not looking for liberation. I'm okay. But just go a little bit deeper. Liberation means to want to be free from any kind of anxiety, any kind of disturbance, any kind of problem, I just want to void out. I just want to space out. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my fault. I'm just trying to do what I can do. Don't blame me. I'm doing the best I can. So that's actually very, very kind of covered desire for liberation. To want to be in a situation where you are not accountable. You are not being held to account for how you're acting. But you said you would be here. I know. I said, but it's 15 minutes. I know, but So that's actually like liberation is. Don't pin anything on me. I'm just a cloud. Just let me float past, and I'll try and do a bit of service on the way, and don't disturb me. So you may think I don't have a desire for liberation, but if you scratch a little bit deeper, I mean, that's why it's mentioned so often. Srila Prabhupada would mention it so often, because it is there. It's heavily, deeply ingrained. And as we start to uncover, we'll see that it's there. And mystic power as well. And when I was a kid, I was trying to find out if I had any mystic powers. So I went to the top of the stairs. I was only about 4 or 5. It was quite a long stairs, I thought I'm going to jump and I'm just going to float down to the bottom. And so I jumped, and I actually did. I just floated down to the bottom step. It was a long way. I think from here to there. I was only a small kid, And I thought, should I try that again? And I thought, no, I was really lucky that I'll just leave it there. And there was this light, and I used to look at the light, and I could do this kind of thing inside my head to try and switch it off, and the light went off. And when I saw Yori Gala, I thought, well, I'm going to try that as well. And I was trying to bend spoons, but that didn't work. But you may have some residue. It may be something, some pious credit. Some people have these tiny, tiny mystic powers, and they become so enamored. Because when you're in the darkness and there's nothing, and even if you've only got a tiny little light, they say that if you're in dark, deep space and there's no other interference light, they say you can see a candle from 12 miles away. So in deep, dark space, a candle is like a big deal, it's in the main. But a candle, normally no one cares, right? If you pull a candle out and say, what's this? And everyone's, yeah, so what? But do that in deep, dark space, 12 miles away, and everyone's like, wow, did you see that? That guy's lit a candle. Because there's nothing else. So anything that stands out in any way at all, because everything is so dull and dark, then everyone's like, wow. But if we read the Bhagavatam, we can read about, imagine standing with somebody and he just raises his foot and kicks his foot through the universe. Can you imagine somebody doing that? I mean, even being aware that he's doing it, you maybe see him go like that and his foot goes, but who's going to know where his foot's gone? But they were so powerful. Thousands of years ago, they could see that the universe had been cracked and the Ganges was coming in. We don't even have the ability to see, to appreciate the mystical powers that Krishna display, at least not now, with these mind and senses in this body. But we can read about them. And then that can help us to see that these other things are just like little candles,
And especially in Bhagavatam, Prasad, so those who are attached to sense gratification to your organs, and for them the resolute determination to perform the devotional service in the place. So it seems like a catch-22, that I don't have that resolute determination, therefore I still have to keep shelter. Shelter and sense enjoyment and material organs. So how can one get out of that apparent catch-22? Because unless you have devotional service at a higher place, you can give up the lower place. And you're not prepared to give up the lower place until you experience a higher place, so you're not going to go anywhere.
So for those that didn't catch that, the question is, Krishna talks in the Gita Bhogeshwar Prasaktanam, the resolute determination for devotional service does not take place for those who are attached and bewildered. It's interesting, Krishna says also that they're bewildered, that they're not just attached, because maybe you are attached, but maybe you're not bewildered. Maybe you know this is Krishna, and so you're not bewildered. But if you're attached and bewildered, then the resolute determination for devotional service does not take place. So let's start dealing with the bewilderment problem then. Okay, I'm attached and I'm bewildered. So there's a problem, a double whammy. I'm attached and I'm bewildered. Now, maybe I'm attached, but I'm not as bewildered. So the resolute determination, maybe we don't have resolute determination, but then we can at least have resolute determination to get resolute determination. It's like they say that don't lose your patience while you're trying to be patient, because we know that we have to be patient, and maybe we're impatient. So to be patient, you have to wait until you become patient, and in the interim stage from being impatient to being patient, it's very difficult because you're trying to be something which you're not. So you're practicing being patient till you get to the point where you can actually be, yeah, I'm okay now. I can do it. I can be patient because I've practiced being. But when I was practicing being patient, I was being very impatient. I was like, when am I going to get patient? When am I going to be patient? And the devotees are saying, it's okay. Just don't freak out. Just keep going. Keep going to Mangalarti, keep chanting. Everything will be fine. So over a period of time. So yeah, the resolute determination for devotional service may not take place immediately. And so there will have to be patience in the intermediate stage where we do achieve resolute determination. And resolute determination also means very clear intelligence. When something goes into the intelligence, Srila Prabhupada said it's practically like spiritual. Once you actually get it, it actually goes in, then that's it for good. And it's how to get it into the intelligence. Because when we say, oh, he's determined, a very good idea there. Determined means your ability to put into action your intelligence. So your determination is directly proportionate to how much intelligence you have. And we're trying to build up our intelligence so that we're not bewildered anymore. We have the yoga, we have the knowledge, we can stand. You see, it's not that because he was armed with yoga, that was it. Okay, look, I'm armed with yoga, look, I've got the knowledge, so can everyone just go home now and call the battle off? Then you have to stand and fight. Okay, so now this is where the fun begins. Okay, so now you've got the knowledge. Now you know you want to be resolute. Now you're not bewildered. Okay, then you're going to have to fight now to get resolute to get resolute determination. Now there's a fight. There's going to have to be a fight. So we've agreed to engage in combat, and we've agreed that these are the weapons that are at our disposal, and we're honing those weapons, making them sharper. And then every day it's a battle, and every day we're fighting to get to the point where we're resolute in devotional service. Resolute determination. It's not a cheap thing, you know. If you meet anyone that's resolute in their determination, it's almost like a mystic opulence. It's very, very it's a very endearing quality. It makes you feel very safe, like you're in a safe place, and that you're with the right people and you're doing the right thing. Because it's not possible to have resolute determination unless you're completely convinced, and you can only be completely convinced if you fully understand, if you have the full knowledge, and you can think, well, I'm not like that. I'm not resolute like him, but wow, I really would like to be resolute like him. So let me do like he's doing. Okay. Let me follow what he wants me to do, and I'll get to that stage. Do you know Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur compared it to a man trying to light a pipe full of opium, and the fire is on the other side of the river, and the man's like this, and he compared it to Sahajas that are trying to enjoy the Rasa Leela, and he said the river is the fast-flowing river of their disqualifications, and they're trying to light the opium pipe. And I was just thinking this when I was chanting, I was thinking, imagine being able to chant, and it's like smoking the opium pipe, that you're actually, the pastimes are there and so many mystical things are taking place and you're really getting into it. So to get across that river of disqualification, that raging river, there has to be determination to push through.
In the process of doing that, sometimes we become aware of our disqualifications, and it can be quite, can make us despondent. So how can we, when we become aware of our disqualifications, how can we see more positively.
So Prabhupada was asking as we become aware of our disqualifications, the raging river of disqualifications, then we could become discouraged. It could be a daunting. It's a bit like when someone says to you, "Do you want to take a walk with me up the mountain?" And you say, "Yes, sure. How long will it take?" And the person says, "Well, probably about an hour or two." And you go, "Okay, then. Better if it's an hour though than two, because I haven't got my thermal socks on for one." "No, it'll be okay." So you start walking up the mountain, and as you walk up the mountain, you say, I wasn't completely honest with you. I'm sorry about that. What you saw is the top of the mountain, and now that we're up here, we can see that's a cloud, can't we? But see, just up there, we're going to go to the top of the mountain there, and because we've come up for a couple of hours now, we look around and go, "Well, this is pretty amazing. What an amazing landscape this is. Isn't it good? Yeah." And the air, smell the air. Oh, wow, it's so, isn't it? Well, honestly, I tell you, it'll just take a day, one day, and we'll be up the mountain. So a day later, you get up to the top of that. And he says, "Well, actually, I wasn't completely on. I was being a bit more honest, but I'm not completely. The fact is, it's up there now, and it's probably going to take about a week. But now that you're a day up the mountain, you're like, wow, Les Mahego is just a tiny spot, and all the problems that you thought you had are so insignificant now. You're thinking, well, I'm ready going places. And after a week, it turns out it's a month, it turns out it's a year, it turns out it's a lifetime. It's going to take a lifetime. But if you just said to him, "Do you want to come to the mountain?" Yeah, I don't mind, yeah. It's going to take a lifetime. What? Yeah, you'll need a few sandwiches. You wouldn't do it. And so Krishna doesn't break it to us because it would be just too daunting. But as you're going up and you realize, okay, well, at least I know how to wash once a day now and clip my fingernails and keep my hair tidy because I haven't got any. So that's a lot more than where I was. But then you start realizing, well, that really isn't the top of the mountain, my friend. You're going to have to go a lot further. So Srila Prabhupada didn't even say there was a top of the mountain. He just said, initiation tomorrow, everyone turned up. And then the day after he told them, by the way, what? Know this, know that. So Srila Prabhupada was very canny, understanding. If he'd have told them, it would have been too daunting, you see. So we have to be kind of gentle with ourselves as well when we do feel daunted. Then we have to be very careful because that's a very dangerous, discouragement is a very, very dangerous emotion to experience because it doesn't lead to anything of value. And our challenge is, can we remain encouraged? Can we remain with courage? Can we keep going in a determined way, even though it looks like it's going to be impossible? And Krishna, that steals Krishna's heart when he sees the devotee in a situation which should be daunting to him, but the devotee is prepared to just continue on because he has faith Krishna will take care of him. Then that really softens Krishna's heart. Okay, I'll finish. It's bang on 8:30. Any online cookies? Iskon Govinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. All of you ki jai, Hari Bo.